There's a possibility, and it's probably not everybody, but there's a possibility that it's possible that your data files have actually changed. And if they've changed, that is a nightmare. Meaning if you're looking for a specific data in a specific column and the column is 2 columns over, you're never going to find it. You know what I mean? You're never going to get that right. So you might want to check that. Yes, we should check. We should check. Question, comment?
No, it's like can you do it on a Mac or should I is it like the whole database?
Yeah, I have never seen this work on a Mac. Ever. Ever, ever, ever. Like ever, ever. So yeah, that's probably a big problem. Let's see, if I go here, let's say a prayer first, and then before I dive in, sorry, I just want to dive in. Let's say a prayer first. Who can say a prayer for us? Any volunteer? Who'd like to pray for us? Anybody need some blessings? Jared needs blessings. Jared, would you be kind enough to pray for us? Thank you.
Learn more about us all on the project, understand it. Too frustrated with it. Have a good day. Inspired guidance. Oh, that's goodness.
Amen. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Very good. Okay, a couple things on the project, and then we'll dive into some, I think, some pretty interesting stuff today. Today, what we're going to do, besides the project, is we are going to integrate generative AI into our Excel workbook. We are going to send a request to generative AI. It's going to respond back to us automatically in a workbook. That's the goal for today. I know I had a conversation in another class about that too. So that's the goal today. But before we dive into that, I wanted to make sure that if you're getting errors, so if when you run your database project and you submit the file and you get an error, what do you do with that error? So if I submit this and I just want to show you what this looks like. Oh, it's not even there. Maybe I can't run it because I don't have the files. Gosh, that's quite the setup. If you download the files and you run it on the return statement, now I got to show you. I don't know how else to do this except show you. Yes. Let's do this. I think you do. That's a good question. Do you have to do that?
But I had a weird thing where
Let me check.
so there was a reference.
I've seen that too. That's a weird one though. It's not too
I
common.
wasn't sure whether we have to unlock the yes, no one.
Yeah, you do.
Oh,
That's new. That wasn't always the case.
like messages also.
No, those are just data files. So those ones you don't have to unblock because those are just Excel files.
The access one.
Only the access one. I think that's right. I think that's right. Wow. Okay, so what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to show you how to take advantage of some of the feedback that the system gives you, right? So again, if I do submit on this, and I'm just looking for, really, it does not like me. Where's this at? This is in downloads. This is in downloads, 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 downloads.
It must be when you're having problems with this. It's not what
Right? It's not worth it.
you don't just do.
Files count. Oh, it's because I haven't finished my. Um, wow. Yeah, I don't want to take the time that I need to recreate this error. When you get a feedback on the submission that you make, it gives you an error. It says, when I ran this SQL statement, I was expecting 117 rows, something like that, right? So every SQL statement that it expects to run, it gives you the amount of records that you should have for that SQL statement. In the file, there's a way to copy that SQL statement and click on this import with SQL button and paste this statement right there. And when you paste that statement from the grader into this, it will tell you how many rows you have of that data. That's exactly right. That's exactly what I'm trying to say. Thank you. You said it so much simpler than I did. That's exactly right. The feedback is giving you the answer key for what it's looking for. You take that SQL statement, you come over here to import with SQL, and if it's not what 111 or 117 rows, whatever it says, you can try to troubleshoot that, right? And try to figure out, well, which rows should be there but are not there. One time Carter and I were doing this, and we found that for the University of Maryland, I think it was, we were looking at the University of Maryland for their campuses, and it was only pulling in the top campus when there was multiple campuses. So there was a blank line, a blank cell for the school, and it was only pulling in the top of that university, but not all the other campuses for that university. And so that's how we that's how we found that, is we ran this SQL statement and we realized, oh, wait a minute, at the bottom of this list, there's not these other campuses that are on the worksheet, but not in the database. And so that helped us diagnose the problem and address it. I just throw that out there for helping you to try to resolve the problems that you have. The good question. How do we fix that, Carter? Yeah, we did an unmerge for the entire sheet. And then in our comparison, what we're looking for is we're comparing, is it greater than blank? Instead of not blank, you know how traditionally we do not blank, greater than or equal to, not blank. In this case, we're saying greater than blank. And what that does is that says, is there a university above it? Use that if there's no university listed. Yeah, if you have that problem, we can look at that too. Okay, good. On the project, when's the project due? Project's due Monday. Project is due Monday. Okay, great. What else we have? We are going to do today, next week, we have controlling Chrome with VBA, sending emails and creating ribbons. When does the final exam open? Final exam is opened today at 3:30. We're talking like an hour and 18 minutes, 17 minutes. It's got, yeah, good question. It's got 31 questions, 250 points. Time limit is an hour and 80 minutes. The first 15 questions are conceptual definition right? Just like last time. The last half, the second half, are code. Here's some code. What's the output of the code? Yeah, no Excel. No Excel. Closed book, closed note, closed AI, closed everything. We took a class vote. Open mind. But this is a good test. This will really test to see what you know. So this is going to be open and it's good. Can I just say, since you're here, should I cover the mic, give you some hints? I won't cover the mic, but debug. There's a couple of questions on debugging, right? So where's my Excel? And of course, this is all midterm study guide and final study guide. I'm not saying anything that's not already in there, but if you are not familiar with when you go into this debug menu, understanding what these options are right here, these four. Step into, step over, step out. Those are things that you want to come up to speed on. Yes, it's online. Okay, great. Any other questions about the final? When does it close? I can't remember. Oh, April 9th. Lots of time. Probably too much time. Way too much time.
Time limit. Start now.
Take all the time. Okay, let's jump into today's material. This is kind of a cool day, actually. Let's go ahead and download. Let's see, what are we going to download? Download Gemini. So we have the Gemini.xlsm file from today's web page. I'll download this file. I'll save this in my downloads. I will unblock it. And one of the things that we need to review in preparation for today's coding exercise is the idea of sending data to the server and receiving that data back. So I'll go ahead and open up our form here, our website here. Um, It died. Yeah. Battery died on my microphone. Yeah, let me see if I can plug it in real quick. Hopefully that. Let's see, if I plug it in, it turns it off. Anybody have another microphone I can use?
This one.
Do you really? Is it a USB?
I use this one for my laptop.
Oh, nice.
Plug it inside. You,
The one works.
yeah, I think so.
Let's try it. Justice, I should give you extra credit.
Yes. Yes, so like that. The receiver on that.
Is it on now? Okay, great. Okay, can you hear me now? Hey, I think that works.
Yeah.
Let's see, just to be sure. Testing, testing. Can you hear me now? Perfect. Okay, great. We're good. We're back online. Thank you, Justice. If I gave extra credit, I would give extra credit to Justice for sure. For sure. Okay, so before we start dealing with the Excel here, there's one more thing I want to do. I want to take us to Google Forms. And in Google Forms, let's see if I can, let's see, where did it go? Yeah, I think it's right here. In Google Form, I have a form here, and this form says, please rate your VBA class on a scale of 1 to 10. And I know that you guys love this class. So basically, you would put a 10 because this class is amazing. Good question. We might actually come back to that. That's a really good question, actually. So when I put in 10 and I hit submit, this form is submitted to a Google server somewhere that takes that 10 and records that answer, right? I can click submit, and your response has been recorded. It turns out what we're going to do today is we are going to submit something to Gemini. We'll use Gemini's AI. It's going to receive a request, and it's going to send something back to us. So just like we've done on this spreadsheet here, we can do with Gemini. Let me show you one thing. You don't have to do this, but you can watch. If I look at the page source on this form, in fact, let me go back. And let me go back to another response. I'm going to click right here on this form, look at the source. Maybe let me inspect it. That's probably a better way to do it. Actually, I don't know if I can inspect on a, this will work. If I look inside this page, I can find the form. And this is the form. There's a form inside of this page, and the form uses what's called a post notation. That's different than get. So there's really two different methods we've been talking about. One is the get. The get is the most common. It's the one that if you're browsing the internet, going to URL, it's going to use the get method. There's also this post method, which sends information, but not through the URL. It sends it beside the URL, outside of the URL, and sends and receives information. We can look at this a different way. We can say, let's just change this particular, I'm actually changing the code for this from a post to a get method for this form. Now when I submit, I click on 7, it's going to submit using the get method. When I click on submit, interestingly enough, this URL has changed, and this 7 right there, I can take out everything else, is the actual response that it's sending. It's sending the response 7 through the URL to the server. In other words, if I wanted to send another response, I could change that 7 to an 8 or a 6. Let's do an 8. And if I hit enter, it's as if I sent that response to the server, right? It realizes that that is the answer for a response. It says your response has been recorded. So if I come back and I look and say, okay, what are my responses? I now have 8 responses. And let me see if I go to the last one here. Number 8, that was my 8. And before that was the 7. And before that was the 10. So in these 3 responses, we've seen different ways to send information to the server. The first way was through the regular form. That was the 6th one. The 7 was putting it into the get post. And the 8 was, hey, I can actually put this into a URL and I can send that information back to the server. I'll hit 9. I'll answer this Google form again. And I'll go back here to the responses. And there's my 9. So without actually filling out the form itself, I'm changing the URL to send that information back to the server. Okay, we good so far? So this is very similar to what we're going to do here with AI, is we are going to include some information in a URL request and send that back. So let's go to the code. We pull open the Gemini file and we pull open the Visual Basic. Did you get it, Brendan? Dang it. Let's see what we have here in our Google form. So I'll go to our Google form module, mod Google form, in our Gemini file. And you know what? It looks like, let's do this. We're actually going to build this one. Let's delete this sub here, the one that says with post, submit Google form with post. Let's go ahead and take that out. We're going to build that here in just a minute. So we're left with this first sub, which is Acme sub run, submit Google form with post 1. And we're going to start with this sub down here, submit Google form with get. And before we run this, again, let's comment this line out of the URL and follow along with me. Let's create another URL and let's just type in byui.edu. What we're going to do here is we're going to create an HTTP object. We have a URL of where we want to go. We're creating this object here. This is an HTTP server object. And inside of this object, we're saying, hey, when we execute you, I want you to be able to open a URL connection to this server. And I want you to use the get method. And false basically means, hey, we're just going to wait until the code runs before you move on. We could put true, and that would be like a background query. But in this case, we'll say false to tell the code, just wait for a second until you get a response back. And then this is where we're actually going to run it. We're going to send it. And then we're going to debug.print the response that comes back. So when we run this code, when we run this sub right here, which we have to run, in fact, we have to run it up here, right? We have to change this to get because it's looking for a rating. It's looking for some input here. So we can't just run this by itself. We have to run it with the Acme sub runner. We'll call this sub, submit Google form with get, and it's going to return to us the text of the byui.edu homepage. And again, so if we go back to the BYUI homepage, what does that look like? It looks something like this. This is the rendering of the text, but the text of this page is this, right? We should see all of this text come back to us when we run this code. It's not going to be nice in pictures because that's how the browser renders the text. But we're saying just give us the text back after we run this. So I'll hit F5 and I'll run my sub runner and I'll get an error. What's the error? System error, runtime error. What? Do you guys get this too? Oh dear. Hmm. Interesting. Oh, I forgot. I need HTTPS before this. Forgot about that. HTTPS:// two slashes, and then that should work. Didn't like that either. What if we did www? Okay, now it worked. So if we use this URL, www.byu.edu with the HTTPS, what we've seen here is we went out to that server, we told it to give us the web page, and then it responded with all of the text from that web page down below. How about that? I mean, that's kind of cool. Here's the socials, follow us. You can kind of see some references to the website down here. And it's the entire, I think it's the entire page, but it maxes out at 200 lines in the immediate window. Yeah, so there's the Facebook link for BYU ID, BYU Idaho right there. So, okay, great. So what we've done so far is we've gone out to the server using the get method, and we've said, send me back a page. Okay, perfect. Let's do this now with the forms. So what we can do is let's comment out the BYUI website, uncomment out the Google form. And what we can do is we can submit this Google form with this URL, right? If we go to the end of this URL, let me make this a little bit bigger. We can concatenate, what it's concatenating here is it's giving us all this URL and it's saying at the very end, put our rating. So we have an ampersand and a rating here. That rating comes from what we're passing this sub to. So if I run this submit Google form with get 1, we're going to rate this class with a 1, right? We're going back to that form of rating with a 1. Let's do a 10, shall we? Let's change this to a 10 for my benefit, for my mental sake. At least an 8. 9, thank you. Appreciate that. When I run this, it's going to go out to Google Forms and it's going to submit a 10 to that Google form. And then it's going to respond with this down here, right? Here's the VBA ratings. Here's the title of the page. Here's where it says your response has been recorded. If you can get to it, it's kind of hard to get to, actually. But again, this is the text that comes from the response to submitting that form. How about that? That's actually pretty cool. One of the ways that you could use this that would be really interesting is you can use these Google Forms as a way to input information into Excel, right? Or use Excel to input information into the Google form. By the way, what if I put 11? 11's interesting. Do you remember when we had that, that other one? I think I took it down. To answer Jared's question when we were looking at this earlier, If I were to go in here, and again, I'm going to change the source so we can do the, I'm going to change the form to be a get form instead of a post form, which is pretty interesting. Here's my form. I'll change post to get, and I'll submit my 7 again. I've submitted 7, but instead of a 7, I put 11 in the URL. So if I submit 11 to this thing and I hit enter, it's going to give me an error. It says the question has changed. Please review your response. It knows that 11 is outside the boundaries of 1 to 10. So that's a Google, the way the Google form works is it only lets you fill in the options that's been determined by the form. So it doesn't actually tell you what the problem is, but it says, nah, I'm not going to accept that. You got to try again. So there's some boundaries there. Okay, great. So now that we've done that with the form in Excel, let's begin to set up our Google AI, how we're going to actually access Google AI, which is pretty cool. Let's do that if we go over to Gemini AI mod. So let's go over to the Gemini mod AI Gemini. And there's a couple of things we need to do to set this up. First of all, we need to go to a link from the course website. So we go back to today's class, which is 22. Don't need that, don't need that. There is a link to Google Gemini AI Studio. And if I click on that link, that's going to say, hey, you don't have access to it because your organization's turned it off. So what I need to do here is I actually need to go in and log in with a Google account that works. Do you guys have a Google account that works? Like a personal Gmail? Go to that link with your personal Gmail. So this is aistudio.google.com. And we're going to go ahead and sign in to Google AI Studio. I'll use my, let's see, which account should I use here? You know what? Can I use my wife's account? Is that okay? She won't mind, right? What's her password? Oh gosh. It's been a while. It's been too long. Let me verify my sign in here. What we're going to do is we're going to create an API key that allows us to connect to Google. Okay, so once I'm logged in, we need to get API key. So is everybody at this point? Andrew's there. I see one person there. Anybody else there? Nice, nice. Mona Bisso's there. Nice. Okay, great. So I'm going to click on Get API Key and then Create API Key. This is going to generate an API key. This is unique to you, and this is the only time that you will see this code. So you need to copy this and save it somewhere. One of the places you can save it is actually on the Gemini worksheet. If you go to the settings, you can paste your API key right into your API key place. So again, we're going to create an API key. We're going to copy it, and we're going to place it back into our Excel file, in the Gemini file, in the settings tab. And we're going to paste it there. Do not share them or embed them in code the public can view. So I'm going to come back and delete this after I publish the recording so that nobody can use this, right? Because if somebody else had this API key, they could log in as me through the API key. So there's some security things you want to be really careful about here. You really don't want to share it. That's why I'm using, is that why I'm using my wife's account? That sounds bad all of a sudden. That's not the reason why. If my wife ever listens to this, that's not the only reason why. But that key is going to allow us to connect to Gemini AI and to ask it questions and to get responses back. This code up here is some of the way that we can connect to that Gemini AI. And notice here is this URL. We're going to be using this URL to connect. Just like we used a URL to connect to the Google form, we're going to be using this URL to connect to Google's AI. So now let's see. Once we've set this up, let's see. Let's do this. Let's just go to Google's AI, shall we? And let's assume here's the context for what we're trying to do. This data, if we go back to the Excel, go back to the People tab, this is a list of, let's say, customers, and we are trying to write an email to the customer, and we're trying to get the salutation correct. So a lot of these customers have names that we can probably tell if it's male, if they're male or female, Lisa, Karen, Brian, Elizabeth. Some of these names like Arbor, Robin, Ellis, Jet, Lowen, Oakley, right? Some of these names could be considered male or female. And what we want to do here is we're going to ask Google AI to give us a confidence level. What confidence level is this if it's male or female? That's kind of what we're going to do. So as an example, let's go to Google and let's just see if we can't come up with a prompt. In fact, let's use this prompt here. If we go to the settings, let's use this prompt here, and I'll just paste this into Google Gemini. And let's see. Oh, I just want the text. If I double click it, I can select the text. Here's my prompt. Use a 10-point scale to indicate if the name, and let me replace that with a real name. What's my name here? Let's try Ellis. Should we try Ellis? Use a 10-point scale to indicate if the name Ellis is considered masculine or feminine in the United States. Respond with the numeric value only where 1 means highly confident masculine, 10 means highly confident feminine. So that's our prompt. I click on submit. It runs its thing, and it gives us a 3. So that's exactly what we want. We want a number from 1 to 10. And this says what? It's more likely male. Yeah, that's right. That's what we're going to do. So we're going to create a prompt, send it through VBA, and get a response back, and put a value into these cells over here, right into Excel, which is pretty cool. Okay, great. So let's send a prompt to Gemini. Let's go back to our code. And let's go to, we're in mod Gemini AI. Let's do that. And let's come down here to the bottom. But let's do this. Let's go ahead and use the code that we built in the Google form. And let's copy this post over there. So I'm going to copy my Google form with get. I'm going to take that from the Google form mod, and I'm going to paste it into the Gemini AI mod. But we're going to make some serious changes here. So what I've done is I've copied and pasted this sub into my Gemini AI, just kind of at the bottom here. And let's make some of these changes. We're going to make a function. Let's make this a function, and let's call it Ask Gemini. We're going to give it a prompt as a string, and we want it to return a string. And if I change this from a sub to a function, I need to change my end to a function as well. Looks like it's already there. Great. Let's replace that sub with a function. And we have some objects here, and we have our URL. So let's take our URL, and instead of using this Google Forms URL, let's go back to our Gemini, and we're going to use this URL right here. I'll copy this URL from the API keys page, generativelanguage.googleapis.com, v1 beta models, et cetera, et cetera. This is actually the engine that we're using, the 2.0 Flash engine. And at the very end here, it says Gemini API key. So we're going to replace that with our API key. So I'll come here and I will replace all of this URL with the Gemini URL. And instead of saying the key is equal to Gemini API key, I'm going to say our key is equal to my API key. So I'll take this out. Interestingly enough, this sheet has a named range for this API key right here. It's already got a named range, so I can use that named range as range API key dot value. Okay, so that's a lot. So what I've done is I've copied this sub. I've changed it to a function. I went and grabbed the Google API key, and where it says key equals, I'm going to put in my API key right there, API key dot value. How are we doing? In fact, let's do this. Let's do a stop here, and let's run this function here. We could run it, and then we could say, what is, in fact, let's just do this. Let's just copy all this up here, put it into my immediate window, and run that URL, and it's adding my API key right there. So that's working. So we can tell that that's working. So I just copied and pasted it down here just to make sure that it would get my API key from the worksheet, and there it is. So far, so good. I'll take that stop out. Okay, great. There's a couple of other things to make this work. One is we need to send it something. So far, all we have is the URL and the API key. If we go back to the Google setup, what we actually need to send is we need to send some content. And we have to tell it what kind of content we're going to send. So here, this is telling us the content type. So it recognizes the format of the content we're going to send it. And this is how it works. We're going to say, instead of explain how AI works, we're going to send our question to Google AI right there in this text. And the nice thing is the sheet will help us do this. So first of all, we need to make some changes to our code to affect the right type, change the type. And then we need to create this body of code here. We'll call it a body of code that we send to Google AI as well to get a response back. So let's do that. Let me go back to the code, and let's do two things here. One is we have an HTTP object. We're going to open it up. But before we send it, we need to add a line of code here that says HTTP dot set request header. And this is where we're doing our content type is equal to, and this is going to be application slash JSON. JSON is just a format. It's just a format of data that comes in. It recognizes the JSON format, and it knows how to handle it. It's like, oh, okay, I know the syntax. I know what to do when. This is great. The other thing we need to do is actually send our request, send our prompt, right? And we can do that with a body. So I'm going to come up here and create a body, dim body as string. And inside that body, I'm going to create the prompt. So I'll say body is equal to range. And the good thing here is if we go over to the spreadsheet, we have a body right here. This is our body that follows exactly the way that Google AI is expecting to receive this prompt. So I'm going to use this cell, which also has a, what do you call this? A named range. And I'm going to use that here in my code. Send body simple. That's the name of that cell. And that's going to be the body that I'm going to send it to Google AI. And notice there's a little placeholder here for prompt, right? So the prompt is actually not inside the body yet. We've kind of set up a placeholder to replace this with the actual prompt. But we've done the heavy lifting here. We have the template of the body. We have the URL. We have the content type. And I think we're almost ready to send this. Let's see what else we need to do here. We need to replace the body with our actual prompt. So body equals replace. We're taking the actual body, but where we see the prompt value, I think it's all caps, prompt, we're going to replace that with the actual prompt that we want. And this prompt is coming from the input that we have to the function. So here we're replacing the placeholder inside of this body right here. We're going to replace this with the actual prompt that we send it in the function. And then we need to add that. Last thing I think is we need to add this send to the body as well. We're going to send space body. And that's going to send it out. And we'll see what the response was. So let's see if there's anything else before we send this thing and actually get a response. I think this code looks good. We're going to set up the body. This is our prompt. We're going to set up the URL, which has the API key. We're going to set up the HTTP object. We're going to say what header it is, what type of formatting the data is going to come in as. And then we're going to send it. And then we're going to print back the response. Okay, I think we're ready. So in order to run this function, let's come up to this sub up here, sub get gender. In this sub, instead of activating a cell here, we're gonna tell it to send a prompt. So let's do that. Let's change this to let's come down here and let's put in our prompt. Our prompt value is going to be range prompt dot value. It's going to pull from the prompt cell. Here's our prompt. This is the first prompt that we have. What is the capital of the country named Chad? So that's the prompt named box. That's our named value. That's the question that we're going to first send to Google AI. That's going to become our prompt. And then once we have our prompt, let's replace the name. So in our prompt, see how the, we can save that one for later, actually. I think we're ready to almost send this. Let's send it. So to send it to the function of the Google AI, let's do this because we want to place the response back in the sheet. So let's do people. People is the name of the sheet. It's the people sheet dot cells. Row is R, starts on row 2. Let's do column F dot value. Column F is the last column over here. This is where we want the response to be listed. So we'll say people dot cells row R column F dot value is equal to ask Gemini, and we're going to send it the prompt. Okay, you ready for this? Maybe I should give extra credit if this works for anybody like right now. If you guys followed this, I'm gonna be really impressed. Let's see if it works. Okay, so I'm stopped. I didn't get any error message. That's good. Did I get a response? I got nothing. Let's see. Did it ask Gemini prompt? Ask Gemini prompt. That looks like it should have run. Let's put a stop in here. See if I can figure out why it didn't run that. Where's that? Let's try it. Let's check. What is my URL? URL looks good. What is my body? Body is, what is the capital of the country named Chad? So we're sending that in the body. That looks good. Let's see. What is we're replacing the prompt. We've got the URL. Let me think. Shouldn't have to log in. Is there anything else? I feel like I'm missing something. Do I need to? Oh, I think it's, I need to change. I need to change the response to be the name of the function. Ask, let's keep that here, debug.print, and then I'll say ask Gemini equal to http.response text. That should respond back with the function. Yeah, I bet that's it. So let me stop my code. Let me run it one more time. So I've got get gender. Here is the body that is sent. And did it come back? Oh, it didn't come back. Okay, let's think. What am I missing here? In string. What if I put my response? Oh, it's not there. Wow, maybe this is not as easy as I thought it was. Set response header content type application JSON http.send debug.print. Huh. Yeah, when that comes back, that should send. Is there anything I'm missing over here? Arbor or whatever the name is. And that's okay because that comes from, I think that comes from up here. From that first sub, it's going to print that first name. Oh, the Ask Gemini. Do you have the Ask Gemini here with the prompt? What is the capital of the country named Chad? But it's not printing that. So do you have a debug.print down here? Oh, that's a good point. What is that? When does that get printed? Because that is the body. Well, let me see. I think it was just from a previous send. Let me stop it and run it again. Let me clear out my immediate window. Yeah, it's just the first name. You're good. I can't find it. That's weird. I might have to pause here and get back to you next class, if that's okay on this one. I'm not sure exactly what the problem is. But the hope was, the intent was that it would actually put a number right there in response to this request. Oh, that's right. I forgot to change the post. This is a post request. Ha. Is that it? Let me see if that's it. That was it. That was it. So there's the problem. So this should be a post request inside of the Ask Gemini function. You need to change this to post. And what that does is that's going to send all of this body and this application in JSON to Google AI. And we actually got a response back. And here's the response back. I think this is the response back. Yeah. The capital of Chad is this name. How do you pronounce that? Does anybody know? Injamina. Jamina. That's excellent. That's the one. So we just pinged Google AI, and it gave us the response back. What we can do now, and maybe I'll just finish this up maybe in 5 or 10 minutes, so we can have a little bit of time for project questions. Is we can now that we have this string as a response, we can go in and capture just this response if we want to, and we can display that. And so, for example, let's do this. Let's change our prompt. This prompt is a prompt 2. So I'm going to change from prompt to prompt 2. And what that's going to do is that's going to send out this question about the name so that we can get a number back. So far, we've just kind of been sending, like, what's the capital of Chad? In this case, let's send prompt 2. And so I'm going to come up here to my get gender sub, and I'm going to replace my range prompt dot value with prompt 2. That's going to pull the second prompt. In addition to pulling that prompt, I also need to change the name, right? I need to replace the name because right now there's a placeholder name. And so I can replace that name with a name from the spreadsheet. So I can say prompt is equal to replace. And we're going to take the prompt that we have. We're going to replace it with the name placeholder. And what are we going to replace it with? It's going to be people.cells row column 2 dot value. And that's going to give us this name right here and here and here. So let me clear this out. And that's going to replace the name. Once we replace the name, now the prompt has the name and the prompt has this prompt, and it's going to respond with a number of 1 to 10. So let's run this and see what happens here. Let me go to people and let me clear out my immediate window and I'll run this. And what happened? Oh, we do need to increment the row. Yeah, we do. This one right here. We've sent the stop. Here is the response. And it says 6. Look at that. So it's got the 6. So it should respond once in fact, let me take out the stop one. I'll keep running it. And it's given us the response back. 6. There's the answer. So the response for Robin was a 6. If I run it again, the response for Charlie is a 3. That makes sense. If I do it again, Laura is, what's Laura? A 10, which makes sense. Laura's a pretty common female name. So we've just done 3 different responses. Now what we can do is we can kind of go back and format this text based on the number. So that also is very helpful. So let's finish that up and then we'll be done with this one. How would we want to do that? We've done this a little bit before, but it's probably a good reminder. Let's come down here underneath the debug.print. Let's create, I'll do a dim POS for position as string. And for this position, we're going to find the in string. We're going to use the in string function. We'll start at the first character, and we're talking about the HTTP response text. Response text. And if we look for this text, it looks like wherever the answer is, which is this 10 right there, if we look for this combination of text, so double quote text, double quote, colon space, double quote, that's a good identifier for where the actual answer is in this text, right? So we can look for that here and put that in our in string. We're saying we want to find where this text is in that response. Of course, we have to be a little bit careful here, and it turns out it gets a little bit ugly because we have to add a couple of different quotes, and in the end, we have to add one to start, another one for a double, one in the middle, and then two more on the end. So this is like 1, 2, 3 double quotes at the beginning, 2 double quotes in the middle, and 3 double quotes at the end. That is ugly. It does not get more ugly than that. And now we have where that is in that long string. So we can do another variable. We'll do temp as string. And I should probably put these up at the top, but I'll just put them right here so you can see my coding instead of having to go back and forth. If I create a temp variable, then I can take that position variable and I can say, okay, temp is equal to, and I'll do the mid. We've seen the mid before, http.response text. And I'll start at the position, and POS is referring to where this actually starts in the text. And I think it's like 9 characters long. So I'll add 9 to it to start where I want the real text to start, which is the real answer, right? Give me 9 positions after this. That's where I want to take the starting from. And then give me what the rest of the answer, right? I could also come in here and say, let's see, POS plus 9. And I guess I have to take 2 characters because there could be a 10. Otherwise, it's a 1, 0 through 9, or a 1 through 9. 1 through 9 is 1 character, but the 10 has 2 characters, the 1 and the 0. So why don't we do this? We'll say temp is where the number starts and everything else. And it's going to take everything else. And then we'll just cut off everything else. And let's do a temp is equal to split. We'll split the temp. And I believe after the answer is like a /n. And that's after the answer. So we can look for that and split it on that backwards in. And when we split it, it turns it into an array. And we'll take the first element of that array. And that's going to basically what that's going to do is this temp is saying, hey, get everything before the answer out. We'll just take everything at the answer and after. And this temp is saying, I need a comma here, temp comma, that it's saying take the temp, find this, and then split it and just take the 1 at the very beginning. Take that number before the \n. And now the last thing here is just to say, ask Gemini, which is this function, is equal to temp, and return that temp. And we can take this one out here. And what that's going to do is that's going to shrink our responses. So if I come back up here, delete some of this long text up here, go back to my original people list, and take out the stop. I'll go ahead and stop this, take out the stop, and run this. Let me just run it 10 times. We should run this, and it should, in a matter of seconds, be able to go and get all these answers and put these answers right back in the spreadsheet. How about that? So what we've done is we've gone out to Gemini's Google, and we've asked it 9 questions in a matter of seconds. What is the gender confidence based on these first names? And it gives us those responses. URL line? Got it. Okay, great. Question? That's right. 3 double quotes before, 2 in the middle, and then 3 at the end. And there's a space right here. Don't forget about that space right there. That's great. Anybody else got this? Anybody? Okay. Oh, interesting. So it's taking out everything else behind it, but it's grabbing. Is there a space after the colon right there? Try that. Did you get it? Nice. Branch? Yeah, put a space after that colon right there. Try that. Yeah. Oh, I see responses. Oh, that's good. Did you get responses on this? Oh, you got big text. Scroll up a little bit though, because it was doing small stuff. It's sending you the full. Yeah, it's not cutting it down, but I think it's sending you the full response. So it's probably in your. You got your POS in string. One is your text.
Right?
No, 2 in the middle. And it's 1 space after that. Look, almost looks like 2 mid split. Yeah. What's the response in that cell? Go back to your spreadsheet. What does it actually say? Candidates token. Double click it. Oh, it's giving you 7. So the top is 7. Okay, so it's finding the 7. It's the /n. It's like the second half of that. So it's this guy. Oh, the backward slash is different. Yeah, I think you're there. I think you got it. Yeah, exactly. Take the select statement, everything inside the hard brackets right there. Copy that and just put it into that SQL select, including the tick mark. Yeah, not the hard bracket, but everything inside the hard bracket. Yeah, but one more on this end. Include that little dash there. How we doing?
Yeah, so.
Run the get gender one. Yeah, run that one. Oh, it's doing something. It's doing something. Oh, you better stop it. You're gonna go through 200. Go back to the. You could do 20 or something or 10. I think after 10 it maxes out and it gives you a limit. Now I was gonna say check your spreadsheet real fast. See what it did on the spreadsheet. Okay, you got some responses. So
Then, it's been this function or?
yeah, well, you're calling this function from this sub, right? Right there. So you're
Yeah.
saying ask Gemini. So you're saying you're going down there to finish this. But scroll up to the very top on your spreadsheet. And what's the response in the top row? API key not valid. Okay, so let's check your, go back to your code. And let's check your URL. Okay, yeah, so you have to delete the Gemini API part. And looks like you got two equals. There you go. Yeah, try that. I think you might be good.
How do you get the function? What if, like, how would you get the function to work where you just type the function as equals to the name? What would you have to do to make that happen?
Oh, that's cool. Just write just write your own custom function.
But isn't it already?
Ask Gemini. That's the wait a minute. Is it? I'm trying to remember. Do you have to do anything else on that?
Can't scroll. No, because you put that and spit something. It doesn't complete everything. 'Cause you're spitting.
Right. You have to do the whole prompt, including the name. But you could build a function. What a new name? Yeah. And pass it some kind of string.
Not just pass it. Not just pass it.
Like the name is what you'd want to pass it into this other function, like this third function. Yeah, but you'd really pull from whatever cell you're in, right? So if you were in a cell and you'd be equals function name, open parentheses, John, close parentheses, that would be the way to set up the function at the very top. But let's see, scroll down to that function or the top of the function, sorry. Yeah, a little bit more up right there. Function ask Gemini, prompt as string, that's like the input, right? Yeah. And then you'd want to output a string just like that with a different name. And then combine the prompt with the name. So you have the name's going to come in here. You got to combine the name and the prompt, which happens in this sub up above. You just have to put that in a different function. Does that make sense? That's actually not that hard. That's actually a pretty interesting idea. Basically, you're functionizing this sub and you're saying, hey, go run this. Every time you run this, pretty good idea.
So looking at it, this looks right. Wait, so there's this.
And what does that say? API is invalid. Let's check your API key. Over to your URL here. Oh yeah, so take out Gemini API key and just leave the equals. Because you're going to replace those capital letters with the actual value. Yeah. Perfect. Try that. Hey, you got a response, I think. Scroll up the very top of that cell. Yeah. So you got the 7. So I think what you need on the formatting side, in the very bottom here, this other function. I think the backspace is backwards. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that should work. Branch, does that work? Nice. See if that works, Chris. What? You're like right there.
Oh, wait a minute. The backspace is before the and.
Well, isn't that, scroll up to the very top of that cell? Yeah, so it's going like that, right?
Mhm.
And then the code you
So
got.
is that right?
No, that's the other way.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. Okay. So
Yeah.
backspace.
Is it this one? Amazing. Okay, great. This is basically what I wanted to cover for today. Should I stick around for some questions about the project?
Yeah, I'm still trying, but I just had a couple more.
Okay, no worries. let me go ahead and stop recording and just kind of dismiss class. So if anybody needs to go, you can go. But that's pretty cool. You've been able to create a Google API key, create a prompt, send the prompt to Google AI, get a response back, and put it right in your spreadsheet. I think the limit's like 10 requests per minute for the free tier. So you could probably only do about 10 per minute, and then you have to wait for the rest of the minute before you can make 10 more requests, right? So if you want to do this whole list of 200, you probably have to build in some wait time in your code, which is possible. Wait 60 seconds and then ask some more time. There's other ways to do it. You can pay a fee and you can increase your requests per minute, that kind of thing. Not bad. Not bad for a VBA class using AI in your Excel. And Cody had a great question, was how do we make this a function? We could make this a function so that every time you did equals, send request to AI, open parentheses, somebody's name, close parentheses, you would take that name, put it inside of a prompt, send it to Google AI, get the response back, and put it in your Excel spreadsheet. And of course, there's a whole bunch of other things you could do with different prompts, right? Pretty interesting. Pretty interesting. I like that. Okay, great. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. See you guys later. I think there's somebody online. Oh, Garrett again.